because we're talking, can I
Yeah.
introduce you? I want
Yeah,
to give a little perspective of, I
you
love that
bet.
this about you. I'm going to read it because I'll lose some stuff. But
Okay.
Shelli Johnson, who I've known forever, it's literally through high school when she's freshman, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And what an athlete she's always been. And same with her
Thank
husband,
you.
Jerry, and kids. And one of your sons is a bodybuilder. I mean, it goes on with your want to with your family, you know. But Shelly's
Thank
an
you.
entrepreneur, a coach, a keynote presenter, leadership facilitator, travel consultant, writer, adventure guide, also the founder of Epic Life Incorporated, a company dedicated to helping people live their authentic epic life. Her mission is to help them live the life of their lifetime,
Hmm.
and to create more meaning in their life and their work. Over the past 15 years, Shelly has walked thousands of miles along with loved ones, alongside clients, and during coaching calls. The wilderness has been her teacher, mirror, and compass. Walking is how she finds her way home to herself. I mean, I can go on and on, but I'm sure we will. But the idea is, I just wanted to introduce you somehow.
Yeah. Thank you.
And it's like, I,
Thank you
I
for the kind words about
yeah, no.
my athleticism. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah, no, it was fascinating to watch all the time. I was always intrigued by your want to.
No,
I
thank
think
you.
that changes the dynamic of everyone. You know,
No, for
some
sure.
people they just don't, you've seen it. And it's hard to watch when people don't want to. They know the answer even. They'll even get to a point where they'll know the answer of what they need to do, but they just don't want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love the phrasing there, right? The want to. I hadn't heard that before. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. I was thinking the other day, it's so relevant to this, is if you want something, you have to act like this. Sounds so basic and not profound, but
No, it is.
it's pretty impactful when I thought of it. It's like, if I want, um let's say, I'm working with people who are starting, they're empty nesting, right? And so they 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 love their spouse, but they've kind of grown apart, and they're sort of thinking like, boy,
Yeah.
this could be such an exciting chapter, but we're almost roommates now that we've raised a family and everything. And I caught myself saying, what would it look like if you wanted to want your partner more?
Right.
And it transformed their, right? It's like, we just, if you actually think about what you want and then say, well, what would it look like if I acted like I wanted this thing, you know?
Right.
Um,
Right.
because I think we all say we want this, we want that, but do we even act like we want it?
Well, and then there's the other tough question is if they want it.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Good
And
point.
the way we form our words and how we want to do things is not exactly how they can. I was reading the one where you guys went into a dance club and did the headbanging stuff. That was hilarious. It's like
Yeah,
I
that
don't know
was,
who would even want to, but you did. And then you're trying to find, but
and who would write about it, right? But I what a dork, right? That story proves that I'm a dork. But vulnerable story, but it was an example of, yeah, a very good example of me just trying to be different than my normal reasonable self, right?
right, right. But that's also what it takes. If you don't poke at those things, you don't understand what you don't know.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
so
I
true.
mean it's a good answer to tough questions like what is this all about? Really,
Yeah.
really, what is it about? I mean, you
Oh,
experienced it, and then you go, okay, now I experienced that.
oh, I
But
know,
there's
and just how you get to kind of choose it, even. It's almost like cheating sometimes,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it really
Um,
it really is funny. But I mean, your story, you have multiple stories in this book they're fantastic to read and to listen to. Or I listen to my own self talk, but
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
how is the traveling around and talking about this thing going for you?
oh, thank you so much for asking. It has been so meaningful, first of all, because I'm just reconnecting with some people I haven't seen, for 15 years or 10 years. And
Yeah,
sometimes some of them were going through serious stuff. And the last time I saw them, we were doing an epic adventure in Zion, and now they're a completely, they're on the other side of that, and it just was great to reconnect with that. So and I feel like, these, Scott, what's so interesting is I'm starting to feel I'm 4 months into the tour, right? I've been Atlanta, Seattle, New York City, and I have Chicago coming up next, and several other cities. And by now, what I'm learning is that people are just hungry. They
Mhm.
want to have this meaningful conversation about the things that we're all thinking about,
Yeah,
mortality, meaning,
yeah,
what's it all for? Who, what's missing? Is this it? All these existential questions that so many of us have, but we don't have an opportunity to talk about. And even like I had one um, hired stop. It was for A&O Sherman and First Manhattan. So you know, they're very respectable, attorneys and investment banking, and I went into their building, all marble all the way, 50 floors. I'm not in Wyoming anymore, that type of thing, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
anyway, even with that group, we had such meaningful conversation about
yeah.
important things, and I heard from so many of them in my individual conversations that followed was, oh my God, we forget, that we can like take a minute, just a minute even, and reflect on our life. And so
Yeah, yeah.
that's been it's been it's been just phenomenal for that reason. I feel like it's one big conversation that's just continuing to unfold rather than a bunch of events for my book.
So it's adding on. So is it safe to say that all the writing you've done and all the stuff you're doing is adding on to your experiences to a point probably you want to rewrite some things even because there's
Oh,
more to write about in the content.
yes. So it's interesting that you bring that up because there's a lot I didn't include in that book. And
Right,
I do,
right.
and people have asked me what's next. And if I'm really honest, I've dared to be honest, and I've said out loud it a couple times here, but there's another book, that's
Yeah,
probably um, more, there's a lot more that I was vulnerable in here, but there was a lot I didn't put in there. But there's also I have this growing, this is going to be surprising and it'll
yeah.
seem irrelevant, but you're a friend and I'm being honest and you asked. So I have this other content that I've been accumulating from so many people, and it's mostly a certain kind, like for a woman in her midlife, let's just say.
Okay.
And it's outrageously funny. Like I think
Yeah,
and it's just from things people have shared that, but I
yeah,
don't really want to put my name attached to it, right? It's off brand, so to speak. So
yeah,
what I'm thinking about though is how can I try to sell that content, or how can I
yeah,
do some of that writing? So I say that because that's almost
yeah,
a left turn for me. But to
yeah,
answer your question, I think I found my voice again, which was what I needed to have the breakthrough to finally write the book and finish it. But it's about, and I thought that was about writing a book, but what I've come to realize is I think that voice that I found is just, it doesn't matter if I'm using it to write or not. It's like embodying like this bigger version, my fuller version of myself. And
right,
I
right.
think the book sent me on that journey, and now I want more of it. You know what I mean? I sort of want more of that.
So you're almost trying to find a way to fit it in. So that it's like you said, it's not your brand. I'm going to grab something. Hold
Yeah. Okay.
on. So what I can relate to is I do a lot of I paint with the gouache. I started it about 7 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
And it's
you're
a
gonna have to remind me. I looked it up after you. It was so fascinating. I would never know any of this stuff about.
they're
Okay.
okay, so they're watercolor basically.
Yes.
I mean, I do all kinds of studying in here. I mean, you probably know the Southern Winds. This is a Southern Winds with the
Oh,
animal.
yes, it's so beautiful.
This whole book is just studies, and I mean, everything from little
Does
trout.
everything start as a study?
It does. It's information gathering. It's like it starts as writing.
Yeah, tell me more.
It's not any different than writing a few statements that mean something to you and seeing how you're going to interpret it and what you're going to do with it. So I literally have hundreds, but this is like people go, why do you do it? It informs my oil painting. That's it.
Yeah.
And it actually gives me another way of thinking and it reforms the way I think. And I do have more facility with oil, but I have a quick understanding of how I can manage an it's limited palette, and there's strength and limitation. And you
Mhm.
have to learn that part. Not any
Yeah, tell
different
me
than
more
writing.
about that. Tell me more about that because I'm sold, but I want to hear it from your perspective.
Well, limitation, for instance, if I understand the limited side of things, I can expand on it. But if I don't understand limited, you'll never get it. So I'll show you exactly what I mean.
That'd be great.
Let me try to see. I say that, but let's see if I.
Yeah.
The hardest part I find is taking anything that is visual and putting words to it, right?
Hmm.
Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this is a William Everett painting. This is a great illustrator from the past. All I wanted to show you
Wow.
is there's a limited number of values in here. So black and white, you reduce it to black and white, correct?
Yes.
Here's I changed the temperature on this to show you how many different ways you could see this in color. But the point is
Wow.
his
Yeah.
limitation. You can look at the brightest accent. You can see it in his collar
Hmm.
and down below his leg right here, and how centered it kind of is. It's a design element. He's not overusing everything. In fact, the
So interesting.
the limitation is the strength. Um, so let's look at, say, when you see this in black and white, this is a painting, right, of another artist here.
Hmm.
And God, I just lost his name. The whole point is that you have to think like this everywhere in a painting. And here's the oil painting in. I'm
Mm.
going to show you it's smaller so you can see it. The color shifts. Look at how limited the values are. There's one shadow. The rest of it is all one value in this butte, and it goes from light to shadow.
Hmm.
You'd think you have to make it lighter in the light. You
Yeah.
don't. You have to keep it exactly. You can keep it exactly the same and move the temperature and change the form. Same
Wow.
with the sky. Look at the value of the sky, but look at all the different colors in the sky. He's got yellows, like reds on the horizon. It goes to yellow. You have to understand what happens to light as it transcends and it recedes and as it comes forward. And but here's I'm going to show you. This will help make sense, and I'll stop.
No, it's fascinating. I'm learning here.
So the black and white is basically for you. What people don't understand is like even in this is a painter, Brett Johnson's his name. Look at the value structure around the horse. The hillside is exactly the same value as the horse. And here's the color version. Let me show you. Maybe, maybe not. Here it is. So the
Wow.
value, the background
Wow.
is more violet. The horse is more orange red, but the value in the sky is the same value as this right in here.
Hmm.
And what he's doing is when you look at that limitation right there, it really gives it the whole thing strength. The
I
value
was just going to
structure.
ask you what makes it strong. Like when you say strong, tell me more. Like,
For instance, if you're painting the Grand Canyon, you have to see all the color shifts,
hmm
but you have to understand it first through values.
and
If you don't,
values, is it
it's
like
how light or
weight?
dark it is, black and white.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
So if you stop and look at this value, is how constant this shadow is, but look at the color
Hmm.
variations.
Yeah. Wow.
So all the values are very much the same in the shadow all the way through the painting. But what he does is strengthen the painting by understanding he can change color and not change value. So that limitation gives you a whole lot more strength. So the reason I'm showing you that is because you get lost in the details when you see a painting that's got more going on.
Yeah. Did you
I'm
teach?
gonna.
Did somebody teach you about values and all that? And is that where you start then when you want to do a painting? You start with looking at the values.
I went to college and didn't learn any of that. I didn't
That's what
learn
I
any
thought
of
you were going to
the.
say.
You know, I went to Russia to study. I've studied Andrews, a lot of painters from history. But I want you to look at this block right up here. Do you see this dark right in the middle?
Yes.
That's the same value as the one in the shadow right down here. That is exactly the same value. So surrounded by a dark, that looks light.
Wow. Yes.
Surrounded by light, that looks dark. And
Hmm.
that's understanding that, here's a great example. Look at this A and B right here.
Hmm.
They're the exact same value. One is in light and one's in shadow, but that's the exact same value.
Wow.
When you look over to the left, you could be certain that that looks lighter in the middle, right?
Hmm. Yes.
And so it's just learning to see that way. So most of my paintings, basically, I have to see them through structure first.
Wow.
So, but
And it,
you don't see it through the nuance. Like for instance, a lot of the values move around the painting, but you just don't see it because they're so scattered, right? Anyway,
Yeah. Well,
that's the limited version, and it's the edited version of what I was trying to speak about. But anyway, I'm gonna stop
no,
sharing.
that helps me so much. No, it helps me to be able to see what you're talking about, right? And those would
Right?
show me a range of examples.
Yeah.
Gosh, Scott, it's so much. It's just, I know when we had our recent conversation and reconnected, one of the things that fascinated me was just all this stuff that that goes into it that I would just
Yeah.
never have had an idea like about how important light is and that you do studies and why you do them and that limitation is strength. I mean, I just think someone goes out and spends a lot of time outdoors like yourself and that you just have a good eye, like you just
Yeah. It's
not to diminish your process, that not to
no,
say
no.
that I think there's not a lot going on for you to do it, but I thought it was more magical, more like I can see this, I'll take a picture of it and I just go back and I try to paint it, right?
Well, and you with the writing is not any different. You have a volume of writing, but then to limit it down, there's strength and limitation, but you have to know
Yeah.
what words to use, how to put it together
Yes.
so it emphasizes that point within a short story. That's harder
Yeah.
even yet. That's harder
Yeah. Well,
even yet.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. And you're just reminding me also that, yeah, what is so comes so automatic for me or
Mhm.
that I've mastered right over years. I
Right.
forget that
Well, it
I
starts by
forget.
walking down the trail. Your emotions are going. You write
Yes.
something down that means nothing yet, but it
Yes.
kind of
That's
has
right.
something of content, and you know what it means to you. So you just kind of you're playing off that emotion. Then you're trying to put words around it. So
Yes.
the
Yes.
limitation for me is like I got to limit my values and say exactly what I want to say.
Yes. I think you're so right. Then that helps when you explain it that way. Because I think what happens for me is, was it, who was it? Was it Mark Twain who said I would have written less, but I didn't have time?
Yeah, yeah,
It's what we're talking about, right? It's like the work is in the constraints and in the resisting like a million words for this story, right?
right, right.
And I think that I wonder if this is true for you. Like I know when I finally am done with this story, or like where
Yeah,
I've reached the best that I can get with it, where I'm at.
right.
Um, it feels so, most of the time it feels so good. It's like such a knowing, right, that I
Uh-huh.
think we all have if we trust it. But do you get that, like when because you like you're working on 30 paintings right now, and I'm wondering,
Yeah.
does it, like, all of a sudden will you just know that one is done, like, like I got it? Or
It's
how would you?
experimenting. It's
Yeah.
experimenting, but it's also I experiment more now than I ever used to. But it's hundreds, and you'll agree with this when you hear it. It's hundreds of small inspired decisions that actually
Yeah.
make the writing come together, actually make a painting come together. And you've got to say, okay, I'll overemphasize that. I'm trying to
Yeah.
be too cute with it. I don't need to be. I can just be plainer, more plainer. I can be more plain in my language.
Yes.
That as an English teacher, you'd never know, right?
Right. No, I didn't even catch it at first. But you know what you're making me think of is I've had so many insights, and it's because I think I'm at my biggest competitive advantage. And the
Hmm.
reason I have so many insights and so many things I want to write about, so many ideas, so much inspiration, is
Right.
because I have spent time wandering in the wilderness. And there's all this science that shows when you're walking, the cadence engages both your left and right hemisphere. And then I've also learned, and I believe in my experience, that we don't have insights in the thinking mind, that they happen. Like an insight is where two things, you connect them for the first time, and they don't happen in the thinking mind. I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh that said that, but that's certainly been my experience. So when I go out hiking and I don't have any agenda, which on my Friday solo hikes I try not to, right? I Unless
Yeah.
something's bothering me, because life gets in the way, and then that hike I'll use to
Right.
kind of solve that. But most of the time, those are like just expansive. I don't know what I'm going to see. I don't really know what I'm going to think, but I just have a million insights by the time I'm done. I've got
Yeah.
using my notes, and it has to do with the setting and the walking, right? And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Yeah.
just this, um, but
And like you
it's,
said, it's a cadence. It's not even explainable, but it's taking away all the stuff that's interfering too,
yes,
which we have so much of. And you're taking away the interference by just putting yourself right out there again.
yes, I think you're right. And sometimes, like I always talk about how we accumulate masks, over our
Yeah.
lifetime, right? We put them on to fit in, or just whatever, right? And some we don't know, we just unconsciously put them on. But the longer you live, the more masks you have on. None of us, you know, I don't know anyone who really doesn't have a mask of some kind.
Yeah.
But when it seems like when I walk into the wilderness and the farther I go, sometimes it takes 2 hours, sometimes, a crazy amount of hours. But I just eventually feel like I'm like everything is stripped off and I'm just completely at home with myself. It's almost like the masks come off, that the wilderness does that somehow as I go into the wilderness, these just more easily come off of me. Right. So then I feel so at home with myself. I trust every thought that I have. It's
Yeah.
like a knowing version of myself. Right. And
Right.
I can only tap into that occasionally, but that's part of the reason I'm going out there because I know it's possible.
Yeah.
And when it
Yeah.
happens, I'll be struck with a million ideas,
Right.
and I love that. I love the ideas. I mean, I
I
love
know.
you do too, I think, right? That's why you have 30 that you're
That's what
working
this.
on. That's why you have that.
I have all
So we
kinds. I have
share that.
hundreds of paintings in the back, and they're memories of things that they're little memories. They're little statements of yours. They're little things that you find on the way, and I don't have to make a painting, a great painting, to do those. But they feed everything. They
Yeah. And
feed
like, do you
everything.
think about them? You think about them like when you're away from them or,
Yeah, but I have to have done it. I have to have done the work to have something feed me.
oh, that's so
Meaning
interesting.
I have to get little snippets of it and still try to
Yeah.
work it out. And I can let it sit there. And then for years it'll sit there. And finally, I mean, this lightning painting I've been working on for 6 years and I didn't like it 25 times.
Yeah. That's
And it's
fascinating to
finally,
me.
and I'm ready to trash it again. So I know when I'm getting close because you have to lose some of the best work you've ever done to find it where you want to go with it. Because
Yeah.
it'll start dictating just like writing will. It'll start taking
Yeah.
its own direction until you rein it back in.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird process, but I have to be outside and be really present with what I'm looking at. So would
Yeah.
you walk me through, like, when you're going to decide to take a walk, what do you go through in your head? I'm going to do it for a reason. I'm going to try to think about something as I go.
Yeah.
I'm guessing sometimes you just want to go to get the freedom from whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So thanks for asking. So I do like, I think it's a brilliant way to try to solve a problem if you're trying to make a decision or like somebody's waiting to hear on something from you and it's been weighing on you. It's not going to be an easy answer. I will definitely use a walk or a ski or whatever's going on or a drive, if I'm
Yeah.
traveling somewhere, and I'll literally kind of assign myself that. And it takes practice. It's like my mind will wander a million times from it, but I'll keep bringing it back to that. And
Yeah.
that, I mean, I really have had great results with that. It's like I get the
Right.
answer or I'm much closer, like I have more clarity.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I have to say, most of the time, it's more like, wow, I get to spend some hours in the wilderness and I am just, and then, things, you're not surprised by some of the things that come to the top of your mind because you have the space finally for
Right.
all of your
Right.
thoughts and you have the time to pay attention to whatever's going on, your thoughts and stuff. But I think, and then I just have these, so that would be kind of an open non-agenda walking or hiking. And those are that's really what my love is when I'm doing that. But, and then there's the third kind where I'm really upset about something. Okay. So like, or someone I know is sick, or there's just some kind of pain in my life or struggle that's unresolved, and it's a lot to carry, right?
Yeah.
It's like weighing me down. Those I don't really have to be attentional about because as you can imagine, when you're going through, you can't help it. It's consuming you no matter where you go.
Right.
But in that sense, I always feel like the wilderness heals me, not completely, but I feel better by the time I'm done. The pain is still there. It's not something I can solve on that walk, but I can be comforted, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a huge benefit, right? That if I'm away from the wilderness or don't have access to it for a while, it shows, right? I just
Yeah. I know what you mean.
I'll think, right? So yeah,
So you go up to the Paposia, and what makes you decide? I mean, this is odd, but man, I think of all the routes you must take up there.
yeah, yeah.
And
No, I love the questions.
do you find yourself on the similar route all the way up to um, the pass at the Cyclone Pass and all that area?
Yeah.
Do you up
So
there
it's
often? How long does it take to get up there? A couple hours, right?
Yeah, so I have favorite routes for sure. There are many, many, but I have probably like a handful that are, you know, my favorites. And some of those are, wilderness, high, more of a
Mhm.
drive to the trailhead and more of a time commitment. The Cyclone Pass Shoshone Lake one is not in the wilderness. It follows mostly Forest Service. And
Yeah,
that one is a grunt. But I love it
yeah,
because of the view, and it's just it's like
yeah,
it's a measure like it's a great training hike because it's brutal. It's rugged and
yeah.
tons of gain. And but anyway, that trailhead is 8 minutes from my house, and then I get picked up. Usually someone, Jerry will pick me up at the end with some adult beverages, and that'll be at the end of the day, at the sunset. But that's a real close one. So I do it a lot just because it's great
Yeah.
training and there's not a big time commitment on trailheads.
What determines I mean, so there's Leg Lake and all those, I'm sure
Oh,
you've
yeah.
been to all of those places. Because I mean,
Oh, how
being
do I
from,
choose which
yeah, it's just
one?
like depends on
Yeah.
time or
Yeah.
variety or,
Yeah, I
um,
think some of it is some of it I just really want to feel it. I want to get at an altitude, so like 11,000 feet if possible. There's less people at those altitudes. The
I
crowds
bet.
are,
Yeah.
I mean, you can earn
Yeah.
it, but you get away from everyone, pretty
Yeah.
easily when
Yeah.
you get to 11,000 feet. So, sometimes I want that altitude, that time at altitude, because there's something about it, right? A lot of times
Yeah.
there's no trail. But it's the views, the crowds. I'm not going to the most crowded places on the most crowded days. So I try to go on a weekday, and I try to be out on the trail by the time the sun comes up. So I pick
Yeah.
based on, beauty and remoteness, like likelihood of seeing other people. Um, does
Yeah.
that answer your question?
That
So I'm
answers it.
usually,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's always different for me too. And I sometimes just don't have a good answer. It just feels right.
yeah,
I just want to try
yeah,
something new, but I think it's the equivalent too is I love to fly fish and
hmm,
I just don't want to be around people.
yeah,
I don't care if I
I
catch the
know.
fish the size of my hand. I don't care. I'd rather do that than
Yes,
be in the volume of distraction again of whatever it is.
yes.
Yeah, that
It's
really
and
feeds me. The isolation really feeds me, but it's also daunting and it isn't always a loving feeling, you know?
No, oh, I so appreciate what you're saying. Yeah, sometimes like we're terrible company, let's be honest, right? Like I think my mind can be quite inhospitable, sometimes.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
can feel like the Wyoming winds are just rattling in there, and it's like something has to give. And so for those when I'm feeling like that, I want to go somewhere where I won't see anyone and where I can just like feel like I'm wandering, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that helps, I think.
What is it about the wondering part?
I think the possibility that the likelihood that I'm out there alone. So a lot of times there's no one else at the trailhead, or I'm leaving before sunrise and I haven't seen anyone, for the first 7 miles. Um, a part of the wandering for me, wandering versus walking, is it's sort of like I've got all day, like I
Right.
can take hours if I want, and that I can do whatever I want. Like I can be out here all day, but I can also, I mean, there's a freedom, right? And I feel like I could take any trail. It's like up to me. And
Yeah.
it's not about the stats really, I think in the beginning when I first did this, I wanted to see if I could go farther than I thought I could, which is that's a principle that I love. But it wasn't long, and it wasn't about the physical for me. It was about like, oh, I get to be out in the wilderness from sunrise to sunset. I guess I'll hike
Yeah.
28 miles. Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I've read some of the crisis you've had and with with other people and other things, but have you ever had times where you just like, okay, I got to stay the night?
So I haven't, thankfully, I haven't on my, and I do, I take all the precautions because I do
Yeah.
want to return, like I,
Yeah. Right.
I, I, I want to be safe. I don't want to have to hire a search or, anything
Right.
like that. But I do use an inReach so Jerry can track my whereabouts if
Oh,
he
good.
wants
Okay.
to. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
could send a message, and if something serious happened, I could launch a search. I pay a subscription for that. But, there have been a couple times when I've been alone, and this is just honest, and I've shared it. There have been a couple times when I'm alone out there where well, a couple times where I've encountered bears, but they were not grizzlies, but they were big, and I was alone and a long ways from a cell signal or anyone. But there was one time with a person, that I kind of felt like just for a second, I thought, because we surprised each other and it was like way out there. Um, and so I did, there were some years, sorry, I'm kind of rambling here, but there
No,
were
it's
some
okay.
years, a friend and community member, Amy Robechtel, disappeared in 1997, and it's still unsolved. And no one's ever found what happened to her. But when that happened for 10 years, I didn't do anything alone. I think almost 10 years, because I was just so afraid,
Yeah.
but then when I was reinventing myself, when we sold the first company, I was longing to get back out in the wilderness by myself. So I got a gun, which, I mean, I learned how to use it. I don't
Yeah.
like having it just because I'm not very familiar with how to use it, but it could be a deterrent, like I wear it on
Yeah.
my, so I do that for some of my long hikes. But there was one hike when I didn't have my gun, and it just felt like something could have went wrong. I don't know why I'm sharing this, but I'm just
No,
saying,
that's
out
all
of
right.
all the times I hike, that was the only time probably where I was like, reminded of just the risks of it,
But
I guess.
that is the thing about outdoors though. There's more of a risk than we think. I mean, things go up when you start going the further away you go away from civilization.
Yes, you're
You're
so right. Everything, the stakes are so high, right?
mhm.
And so you can't even, like, when you would normally run across a little boulder field, you just have to always be so like,
Yeah.
because if you slip your foot and you get pinned there and you're alone, I mean, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. The stakes are so high. Um,
Well, and you sometimes I bet do you have a little shelter you kind of get yourself under if you have to?
I do always carry like a bivy bag, and I mean,
Yeah.
my pack is pretty heavy because
You just
I'm
need to
really,
count. Yeah.
yeah, I'm anal that way. Like, and
You never
that's a
know.
problem actually. That's something that I preach and I don't practice about packing light. So I got a
Yeah.
million extra things in my pack, so that helps too, I guess, from a peace of mind.
So what do you find out of your book that has surprised you the most? If you had to say, now that I've done it, what do you find it like? Okay, everybody's responding to that, and I never saw that. I
Yeah,
never saw that
oh,
that
it's
would be like such a important part of the book. But people seem
such a good
to. What
question.
else? What else? What are
Yeah.
things that you've noticed?
I think one of the things that's surprising me is the questions that people are asking and the conversation, because I've now had enough gatherings that some have been all women, some have been women and men leaders, some have
Right.
been friends and family that range from. We had a 91-year-old in at one of my gatherings who was a living example of what I'm trying to preach. So that was great. I didn't even put him in there, but I think I've been surprised by how many. It's not a certain age group. It's not just women or just men or just people in their midlife.
Mm.
It's what I've been pleasantly surprised about is people are just hungry to be more connected to themselves and to each other, and they don't quite know how to do it, and that we're so many of us are you know struggling in a way, and yearning for this type of connection right now, especially with just everything, the
Yeah.
divided times that we're in. And it's hard,
Yeah.
right?
Sure
Uncertain,
is.
fast changing. um so that's been the most surprising thing, is that I think it's just people being inspired to take some time. A lot of people don't take any time at all to reflect on their life, and
Yeah.
um for me, that's one of the biggest difference makers, is that I regularly, reflect on my life and think like, is something needed? Is there someone I love that I'm like I haven't checked in with for a while? Or these important questions that I want to be asking myself. So I think that I'm such a long-winded answer, and I'm sorry, but I think the
Not at
thing that's
all.
surprising me is I didn't realize how much how that would be one of the effects, and so that makes me just so happy. you know.
What is it like if I'm going to put this interview in with the AOP that I have, the Adventure of Painting, and the people that'll watch it, there's numerous people in there, so it'll be fun for them to hear this.
Mhm.
what would you say for them, what you would have to offer them if they were to contact you?
Um, I would love to like help you look at your life, examine your life. If there's a particular part of your life or yourself that you'd like to look at, that would be, I would love to help you to safely, do a deep dive into that, to go through
Yeah,
that wilderness, to go through that wilderness.
yeah,
Because I love people, and I think it's almost like, I see their higher angels. It sounds choosy, but it's sort of like, and maybe that's because I'm out on the frontier, right? I don't know, but I see someone's potential. Like I see who they're trying to be. You know what I mean? And
mhm,
and
yeah.
I'm endlessly curious. So like I just love to help people see themselves, see their life more clearly. Um,
It always seems like you're a couple questions away, right? Or you have a question, you just can't quite figure out the answers to it. And there's sometimes never a
yes.
best answer either. There's just a
Oh,
lot of different thoughts that go along with it. And by processing it, it sure seems like it takes a while, but you can find it.
yes. And I so appreciate what you're saying, because a lot of times it's not the answer they expect to get.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
something better, something better, right? And the other thing is I think it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I think you feel more connected to yourself, when you spend time with yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I
Well,
mean,
that's,
there's other things I can help people be more courageous. I'm good at that.
yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. Is that answering your
No,
question, or?
that's a great answer. That's what I suspected, but it's like there's not a best way, but there's just, in fact, I know myself, I'm usually surprised at what I find if I
Yes.
have
Yeah.
to
I
really,
mean,
if I have to really
yeah.
work with something. Yeah.
Yes. I hope. And I also think that, I think that are most of these people, artists then, or?
Yes, most everyone in there is an artist, but I think we all struggle with the same thing. It doesn't matter what it is in your
Yes.
life. It's like, what do you want out of it and why?
Yes.
And
But it
how do you,
impresses me. I'm sorry, but you go ahead.
no,
I,
no, that's
I
okay.
was Yeah, I didn't mean to talk over you, but what I got excited when you confirmed that they're all artists, just because I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by your process, and I do feel
Yeah.
a kinship, right?
Right.
We're all artists, I guess, and
Yeah.
just we have different mediums and different ways of expressing ourselves.
But the
But I
only way
guess
you're going to go ahead. Sorry about
yeah,
that. I
no,
interrupted you.
the point is because I'm not the same kind of artist. I think that that's interesting, right? Because I might ask you questions that your peer artists might not think to answer, because I there's so much I don't know, right? So
Sure. But
that's
it's not
that
always
that
about the
makes
paint.
me
It's not always about the painting ever.
right.
It's about what you want out of it. What do you want out of this? Well, it's about the painting. What do you want? A hierarchy of what you want in the painting. But if you don't ask yourself those questions, you're just copying something brainlessly and it's or aimlessly kind of. If you can wander through the wilderness and not pay attention.
Yeah, so easily. Great point. That was a great point that you made. That was the best way that I understand it too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Um,
that's the hard part for most artists, and just not actually anybody. It doesn't matter if you're an artist or not. It's good answers to tough questions. It's not just what do you want out of it, like a hierarchy of your learning process. What is you think you need the most and why?
mhm.
And it might be a damn good long walk in the woods for many days of
Yeah.
that question still there for the rest of your life, possibly.
Yes.
And that's where you find it. But it's not overnight.
Yeah, I know. I so appreciate that.
And
It's like
that's what I think is as far as the art. Sorry, I don't even know how to put words to it because to me, what you're talking about is a process. And it's not like okay, if you do this, you're going to arrive here and that's it. And then you're done.
oh,
It's learning to adopt a process of asking good questions and tough
hmm.
questions, going a little
Yes.
deeper on the question, not, no, I have to, before I make decisions on where I'm going to have my art go, is how many
Hmm.
places can I possibly go and do good work? Okay, there's one.
Yeah.
And can I afford the experimenting? I have to.
Hmm.
If I don't experiment, I don't find new ways of doing things. I don't learn how to solve problems I
Yeah.
didn't discover. I've never discovered by not asking questions. I didn't get there and go, I have to get there and go, now what do I do? Because I'm either going to merge this value with this one or I'm going to connect it somehow, but it has to connect. I can't
Yeah.
just isolate everything. And quite frankly, my limited palette is blue, red, and yellow.
Hmm.
And if I can see everything through blue, red, and yellow, and so I studied that. So right, so all the painters in
Hmm.
history, basically one of the most important painters said most painters paint on the blue and yellow side of things,
Hmm.
and they ignore the great modifier, which is red. And if you take red
Interesting.
out of
Wow.
the equation, you don't have form,
Hmm.
and you start losing form. So you have to understand things through color as well as value, like black and white, but you have to also see it in color. And then you have to limit it because if you limit your palette, you understand that it really doesn't, the broad range of colors that you can buy out there won't make the difference. My favorite painter, can I show you an image of something?
Yeah, I love it.
This Zorn, I went to study in Sweden and, oh, what is it? Here it is. See if I can find them here. Probably quickly is not easy. Zorn was a real favorite as far as portrait painters. But the reason I
Hmm.
studied him was because basically he had a limited palette, and black instead of blue was one of the colors, and he had red and yellow. Let me see where. Here it is. And here's, let's see if I can find his orange palette. No, that's not this one. Anyway, this is done with black, red, yellow ochre, and white.
Well, so he chose, if I heard you right, he chose black instead of
Blue.
blue.
So that black makes that blue look very blue, depending on the
It's a
colors
beautiful
around it.
painting.
So depending on
Yeah.
the colors around it. So, and I studied this guy. He's classically trained, but he's dead for years. But Prince Eugene used to collect most of his work in Sweden, and so there's a lot of it available to see. But you'd never know when you get close up, how dark his darks were not. Look how few darks he's got in here, really heavy
Hmm.
darks.
Yeah.
But it's understanding it through the limitation that he made himself. Um, here's another painter it's fascinating to me is Sorolla. I mean, let's see. And he did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little paintings. Oh, I don't have them in here. So when you're in a situation like this, for instance, though, when you're out there, you have to learn to see patterns like this.
Hmm.
You have to, that it takes me time to sit down and come up with that.
Yeah.
As odd as that
Wow.
sounds, but that will carry the idea of the painting. And those little ideas are basically I don't want to get too far in this. Let me try to give you a Zorn. Um,
But I appreciate what you're saying about it. This is like so much a process.
it is, right?
It
And the
is.
more you dig up, the more you're going to learn. And the more you learn, the more you realize you didn't know. And it goes
Yeah, that's,
on and it
oh,
goes on and on. Let me see if I can find this palette of his. It's right here somewhere. Come on. He did a lot. The reason I have so many of his is he had that limited palette. And I
hmm,
realized there's strength and limitation. This is one of my favorite all-time paintings I've ever seen. And
no.
that's a gouache. And that's why I started using gouache because
Yeah, tell me why it's one of your favorites.
it's just the harmony. The subtle silvery grays are really hard because the value of that water is the same as the beach.
Hmm. Wow.
It's just
I see that.
temperature shifts. It's all the way through, even up to the point where the water is right on the fish. That color
Wow.
and value is right on that fish. It goes on and on. But if you see a close-up of these guys, like for instance, when you see this edge work, what I mean by that is when you look at a painting like this painting he did of the woman, back off my screen, it's too darn close, I can see it. Um, when you look at this woman, for instance, right here, it's a bad reproduction, but this is a big gouache painting of his.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Look at the edge work. This is all form and value, and look
Wow.
how the darks are not dark at all. There's temperature in that
Hmm.
shadow. And this is
Wow.
their forearm, right? So
Hmm.
understanding what you can do with a value and temperature shifting is right there. And that the more you understand that, the more you can apply it. But if you don't understand it, you can't possibly apply it. I mean, So understanding things in its simplest form and how to have information still within real limited palette. I'm going to show you one. I'm trying to show you his palette here.
Hmm.
If you see him holding it, let me know because
Okay.
he's holding a palette and he's doing a painting of somebody behind him.
Okay, I'll look.
Um, I've got my head too close to the screen.
Yeah.
What is it? See,
Is this all of his work?
these are all his, yeah. But the reason I studied it is how much variety you can still have in a very extremely limited palette.
Hmm.
Oh, it's got to be right here.
It'll be the last one we come across now.
It will be.
I'm seeing good art though, so I don't
So
mind.
this guy is Soroya. He's a very similar painter. But you know what he did is thousands and thousands and thousands of these
Hmm.
small studies. It's that little walk. It's the taking the walk and spending time with it and
Do
trying to
you ever
understand.
sell the studies or is it strictly just part of your process?
I do. Some of them aren't worth selling. They're just
Yeah.
information to me, but that's what I treat it like. It's not even more than, that like Pressfield said, about writing. He said, no, that
Yeah.
one title says nobody wants to read your shit, right?
Yeah, but I'm thinking I would want one of your studies. Like I think, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's interesting, right? Is that you may
Yeah.
not you think it's just information for you, but other people are like, wow, pages of
Right.
masterpieces there. So
Well, and I prefer this. This is way more important to me than five major paintings because it's
yeah.
information.
Yeah.
And I've got whole drawers full of these things, and I have to have those because if I'm running into a problem, I'm going, okay, I have a study to that. Let me go look at the information.
Yeah.
What's going on between the light and the shadow? And anyway, it's just
No,
on.
it's so good. So we do have it's just a different medium, right? Because with my
Yeah.
stories, I'm doing the same thing all the time. I'll carry a story with me for 10 years and then finally know what I want to write for it. Um,
Yeah, that's it.
yes, it takes a long time to get
Yeah.
to what you decide is what you want for it. For me anyway, there's no path. There isn't a path to find, right? It's you're making the path.
So how do you
Um,
find your stuff you're writing? What I mean by that is I have different notebooks for different topics, so I can kind of
mhm.
figure out where I'm at. Because when I want to
Yeah,
write something, if I just write it in here, I forget where I put it.
yeah. So usually it's like so for whatever reason, I am easily captivated. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's because I'm a writer and I think that everything is potentially interesting. I think there's probably something to that. But the reason I'm saying that is I'm just endlessly curious and like I'll be listening to something that isn't even relevant, right? And maybe I'm doom scrolling and land on something that I would have never picked out, but then I'll hear one little thing and I can be fascinated by it, right? So
Mhm.
like it was like that when I wrote about this in the book briefly, but it was like we were in Iceland and we did this grand finale of an adventure our family did. It was like 3,000 vertical feet up you know a glacier covered volcano. I mean, it was an epic grand finale to our trip. And when we got down, we were finishing, there was this bird that was just like ordinary looking, right? Just a bird. But later that night, I was writing, I was blogging on the trip about each adventure. And I looked up the bird and it was an Arctic tern. And what's a big deal about that is it's like it migrates 50,000 miles a year, you know?
Wow.
And so it's like
Yeah.
you don't have to be a birder, right? To be like, so
Right.
then when I heard about that, I was like, greatest flyers. And I mean, I just went down it was amazing, right? But I got
Yeah.
so into birds and I
Right.
know the high flyers and I used to think, I didn't know this is so naive. I didn't know that I just figured birds flap their wings to go higher, but they actually, they find the thermals and there's very little flapping going on. And those things just fascinate me
Right.
because they're so applicable to anything. So it's not like I'm
Take your
trying to
route.
share. I'm sharing that because that's how my mind works. I'll be struck by something, and then I got to learn as much as I can about it. And I'm so inspired when that happens, and it happens a lot
Yeah.
for some reason.
Well, then I'm sure they have to fly into the severe wind, but if they can do it, they have preferences, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes,
And they know
yeah,
how. And that's the thing about what we're learning.
yes.
Wow,
Yes.
that's fascinating,
So,
man. I, you know, when we think about all the things that have changed us, I know that's such a
mhm,
broad topic.
mhm.
The things that have made us who we are, what would you say have been your biggest influences that are like it's maybe not even
Yeah.
suspect.
Yeah. It's a
Maybe
good
not even
question.
suspect. I mean, things that have
Yeah.
helped me, for instance, while you're thinking about that, I'm going to share one with
Yeah.
you. One is
Yeah.
that
Because I was going to ask you what yours are then too, right? So,
only because I just want to give you a minute to think about that. It's a pretty broad
okay.
question. And it's a
Hmm.
damn broad. And I was thinking of little things that have happened to me. For instance, I have a company that made a bunch of neutral grays out of three primaries for me.
Okay.
So they took three primary colors in white, red, yellow, blue, and then they'd mix a modified color, which would be a grade green or grade reds or grade. So they're neutral base. And I always expand
Hmm.
out of the value then.
Hmm.
And that's been a lifesaver as far as time goes for me, as far as painting goes, because I have a color that has all three primaries in it, so I can bend it any direction I want.
Hmm.
So that's a small thing, it seems like, but it's actually a huge time saver for me.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be much different than having I don't know even how to equate it, but it's like it to have different values in neutral base. I can always
Hmm.
add color to them. I can control the value that way. And do I have to have it? No, I'll mix my own. It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
just that I have them tubed and I can take them somewhere. And if
Yeah.
I went
No.
to the Grand Canyon, I'd have my own versions. If I went to Ireland, I'd have my own versions. And so I can take them and modify them no matter what. But that was like
That's
a
fascinating.
small but big thing when I'm working larger because I can get masses of neutral base.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
like,
that's interesting.
and it
It's
sounds
so
like it's,
interesting.
yeah, that's a different thing. But anyway, that was one for me. It's really odd, but it's actually a big one.
Yeah.
Do you have
I
anything
think,
like that? They're odd.
well, I would think mostly just about how I came to love reading, solitude, and hiking, because those three things
There
are
you go.
so huge in my life and so
Yeah.
huge in my work. And they're like, I guess my competitive advantages, if someone were to ask me. And I think that those all came to me when I lost my Division I scholarship. And so they all came out of necessity, but they all were so difference making. I mean, I even though I was a journalism major at the time, I wasn't a reader, which surprises a lot of people. But
Right. Right. Right.
and I and when I lost that scholarship, I remember one of my journalism professors bought the book Man's Search for Meaning for me, and I read it because I trusted this guy and he was trying to help me, and I was lonely and depressed and on an this was an unexpected path, right? And I didn't have a map for it.
Hmm.
Um,
That's well
and I
said. That's well said.
Yeah, thank you. And I read that book and I just remember Viktor Frankl survived 3 years of Nazi concentration camps, and in it he says that essentially we can choose our existence. The last of the human freedoms that can be taken away is our outlook, our attitude, the lens that we choose, right? So I think that at the time, I just remember like a light went on. It may sound dumb, but for me, I was so
No.
struck. I was like, I don't have to be a victim. Like I can actually choose how the story's going to end, and it was so empowering. And so then that started my love affair with books, and now I read 40 to 70 books a year, and it's like such a source of inspiration. So that was huge for me, and I just don't know if I would have ever come to that love of reading. And then um, I
Yeah.
started
It's
I
a big
started
one.
hiking. Yeah,
That's a
that
big
is
one. I
it's a
mean, you
big
stop and
one.
think about the decisions you made just because of that, right?
I know
And
so many because
how many people do you know that actually sound there's a lot of victim mentality in there in areas.
yeah,
They don't even
yes,
hear. They don't even, and
yes,
I hear
and
that in myself at times. I'm like, listen to that.
yeah, and it's like a lot of people they are victims. Let's be clear, right? Like, but
Yeah.
it's a mindset because you can't take responsibility if you're also a victim. So to me, it's sort of like even if you are a victim, if you want to change your life or your response, you have to take responsibility, so you have to get out of that, right? It's like, oh, I'm not the victim, I'm a survivor, right? I'm not gonna be the victim. So yeah, that has been huge for me, that concept. And then that reading and then hiking, that was what got me into hiking. Was I had all this time on my hands when I didn't have basketball, and I was lonely because all my best friends were on the team and I had all this time and all of them were unavailable.
Yeah.
It was the
Right.
first time I experienced loneliness, and I was 21, quite a long ways from home. And so what became solitude and a love of solitude started out as loneliness. And May Sarton, the writer May Sarton, she said that loneliness is, um, let's see, loneliness is deprivation of self and solitude is richness of self. Um, Something like that, very close to that. And that was the difference. Like, so I was lonely. I was spending time alone, not by choice. And I was lonely and sad actually, because I was, suffering from the disappointment and stuff. But eventually what happened is there was this shift and I started to look forward to that time alone when I'd hike up to the M because it started to be restorative and I was getting like a relationship with myself that I didn't have. So, that
You
was my
still
love of
find
solitude.
even though you're married and have kids, do you still find that loneliness at times?
So I think mostly I'm not lonely, but I experience loneliness. I do from
Yeah,
time to time.
yeah,
And I think we all do, right? You can be in a
yeah,
crowd of people and feel lonely, and you can be alone and not feel lonely. So I do think we
yeah.
all sort of have that. And
That's a
um,
fascinating topic. That's a really interesting
yeah,
topic.
yeah. So those were the three things. Those are three big examples of because those have been difference making. And if you take those away right now, any of them, it affects me.
Yeah.
Um,
What have you been most surprised about with the, I mean, you've told me a couple. When you think of your stories, is there something you want to expand on more?
yeah, thank you for asking that.
I mean, you have so many broad stories to things,
Yeah.
but is there something
Um,
you feel like, wow, I need to go, and you said you're talking about these things that, so I do these little paintings, we talked about
mm-hmm,
earlier. I do these little paintings
mm-hmm.
that why would you do that? People say. I don't even
Yeah.
understand. It's that experimenting and yeah, people can see it and it's still worth something, but it's maybe not
Yes.
worth what an oil painting is to somebody, but it's also value wise. I mean, but they're as important to me as the bigger paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And
Beautiful. Yeah.
they're worthy of somebody seeing. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's just for learning.
Yes, I mean, I think I can't imagine if I was an artist, a painter, and I could learn and look through your studies. I mean, do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I mean, you should do that if you aren't, because
I
well, I
kind
know
of
you've got a million
I'm
things.
putting I'm putting those gouache paintings out on the market now. They're just different,
Okay,
but I don't even
yeah,
try to compete with my oils. They're just different.
yeah,
And people say, why would you do it? Because I want to. Why? Because
yeah, and it's interesting. It's
it,
interesting because it's different, right?
it informs my work in a different way. It's like taking different trails. It's not like that same trail
Yes,
won't be gratifying and common but you're always going to see something new, but you have to change once in a while. You have to try that.
yeah. You know what? It makes me think your love of experimenting, and I'm right with you on that. Is I think that I want my life to be I want to think my life is interesting. That sounds so self-absorbed, but I think that is part of how I
Right.
also live the life that I want because it's like I sort of don't want to follow just some path or do it the way everyone. It's just boring for me, right? I
Yeah.
need it to be somewhat interesting, which but might not be interesting at all. Like other people probably think, yeah, how do must be a loner or whatever, right? To live out there like that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
to me, it's and I think this about anyone, right? I think anyone who lives like the fact that you do these studies and that you choose a whole new, what would you call it, a medium? This new thing you're using,
Yeah.
is it a,
Yeah. It's a different
yeah,
medium.
yeah, that makes you so interesting to me because I would say, wow, what
Wow.
inspired you to try
Yeah.
something different? So it makes you more interesting because it's
Mm.
like you're already on a path, you're killing it. You know what I mean? I mean, the way other people see it probably. And then, the fact that you still want to try new things and stuff, it makes you interesting and uncommon, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right. We'd like to think that.
Well, I
Yeah.
think I'm
Uh,
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it for you, Scott,
but
because
I don't
that's
think I necessarily work at it. I just need it.
yeah.
I
But
don't know
but to me it makes you interesting though,
okay.
as
Yeah.
as a person and an artist, and
Right.
it says so much about you, right?
Well, in athletics, as you know, we're never satisfied. And as soon as you thought you were, somebody just beat your ass.
Yeah, that's right. It's so humbling.
Just
It's
like,
so
and that
humbling.
happens over and over and over. I mean, and how come is it, you're going to adjust your golf swing and just a little is good, but a lot more is a whole lot worse.
Yes. Oh,
And
I
it's like
know.
you
Oh,
just can't overdo everything. You have to understand how things have a balance. I mean, that is painting. That is
Yeah.
painting as well as writing as well as life. And man, I could talk to you for hours about this because it's actually makes my decision making better every year. I have to, the hardest thing I do is spend time deciding what I'm going to do for that year. It takes me a
Yeah.
week, at least a solid week of that. Why am I going to
Yeah.
do this? And how much is enough? And how many paintings? And I mean, how much do I really want to do? And then at what point will I be a slave to this? I don't want to be
Yeah.
a
That's
slave
so,
to it. I want to keep learning, but to force the writing doesn't work either, you know,
oh,
right?
I know. You need to do the reps, but yeah, you can't force it. I don't think so. So interesting to hear like the way you talk about your practices and stuff. It's just interesting because I can see, listening to you, it's such a different way of describing something
Hmm.
that I do, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's that.
Well, I
Yeah,
think the
that's.
words around it are important. Thank you for the time on this stuff because I think the
Oh
words is
yeah.
actually some of the most important part. There's a lot of artists that don't teach necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And when you speak with them, it's not a bad thing. They just don't think about putting words to it.
Yeah.
They actually just do it. They know it and they do it, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
think about putting words around it. And when I have to put words around it, that's hard because that's a journalist practicing the wrong craft, you
Oh,
know?
oh
It's
gosh, yeah.
like,
I was hearing an interview with writer George Saunders today. Him and Kelly Corrigan were in a conversation, and he was saying how the more words you have, the more ways you have to articulate something. So, like if someone says, so instead of saying, I think Kelly's example was instead of saying I'm I'm pissed, you can say, and then someone says, what do you mean, be more specific, and then someone says I'm angry, and you're like, be more specific, and then you say I was unnerved. You know what I mean? It's like if you have more words to choose from, you can get so
right.
much more specific in even just communicating a
Yeah.
thought. Or and I think that when you talk about that, like in and we talk about it in writing, being more spare, but having more,
Yeah.
I don't know what you call that. Yeah, but it's all your
I,
studies, right? It's all your studies. It's all the stories I've been collecting. It's the raw material. That's what I'm talking about, right? The
right.
raw
Right.
material.
And so, and that Pressfield Watch talks about doing the work and the art of war of art.
Yes.
I mean, it's not any different. It's like, but they talk about what one of my favorite writers also talks about, his name's Joe Ennis, and he talks about developing your critical eye. He
Mm,
talks about it has to be sympathetic, demanding,
right.
or unsympathetic, demanding, never happy with what it sees.
Yeah.
What else? I put a list together of what he said there. Intelligent, studied, skeptical.
Hmm.
I mean, demanding. I mean, oh, everybody they don't want people don't want that. They just say, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
What does that mean? But he says if you're really going to develop a critical eye like that, you're going to
Hmm.
be exposed to what he calls the twin evils, triumph and despair.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's like it's Carl Jung's idea of being with our shadow, right? It's the same thing almost, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like it's like part of the experience, and it's what keeps most people from doing it or sticking to it.
But the
I mean,
despair, I mean, I can see a lot of quality. He said the triumph and despair, you can't live in either one.
yeah.
It keeps you from working.
Yeah, it's so true. But you need those extremes, right? Like
Yeah,
um the
yeah,
depths, right? And the heights. Um,
yeah. That's awesome. That's great. Thanks a ton. I hope we
yeah.
didn't go too long
Oh,
for you.
no, I loved it. I could talk to you for hours too, Scott. So maybe we can have another one sometime.
Yeah. Well, we might have to make a list of what we want to cover because it's going to be pretty broad every time
Yeah.
and bouncing
But it
around.
was
But
good. You gave me a lot to think about again. And I just appreciate your sharing because I love the learning and I love learning it from your perspective, right? So it's
thanks.
fascinating. Yeah.